In this short video, we're providing you with a look at one of the sections of the Part 1 Instructors Assessing the Dog seminar, where we're discussing the three-part loop of observing, interpreting, and planning. So all of this can kind of be broken down into a three-part loop. Now, I'm really trying to lay all this out, knowing full well that many of us are doing this automatically without thinking about it. And it takes a number of seconds, tens of seconds, maybe a couple of minutes, right? And it's happening over and over and over again. But I do think that it's helpful for us to really parse out the specifics to make sure that we aren't lumping anything, that we're giving enough time and energy and credence to each individual piece so that we're not skipping over something by mistake. So this is the three-part loop that I tend to go through when I'm working with a client. This is happening over and over and over again. We're going to be getting into all kinds of details about when. But they basically can be broken down to first I observe, then I interpret, then I plan. And then I go right back to the beginning again. So if we were to break this up into a little bit more detail, what does each of those categories mean? Interpret means that I'm doing a very objective observation of the dog, and I'm describing to myself, either within my head or quite literally verbally, what the dog is doing. So some examples would be mouth closed, head aligned with spine, and slow, hesitant steps. Those would be examples of an observation. From there, once I've done that for however long, I'm now going to flip over into the second part of the loop. And that's going to be when I start interpreting. And that means that I'm going to be analyzing my observations to better explain the dog's behavior within the context of the situation that we're in. It's kind of taking a step back view and say, okay, I was really super focused on these particular body parts, on these particular canine body behavior cues, as an example. Now I'm going to try to put them all together, and I'm also going to try to look at them within the context of the entirety of the picture, the entirety of the situation or the scenario. So to use the same example, let's say that I had observed that the dog had their mouth closed, their head was aligned with their spine, and they had slow, hesitant steps. So they did all of those things. But the context that they did those things is they were coming into a space, and as they came into the space, their focus was fixated towards a corner. And then I look up and look at the corner, and lo and behold, there's a big, bulky coat that is draped over a chair. And it's all kind of in a shadow. So we could then interpret that the dog is fixated on the corner because they're concerned about this weird thing in the corner. And that's explained by all those things I observed in that first part of the loop. I hope I'm making sense here. Again, this is all happening in a matter of seconds or minutes. So then we go into our plan stage. I observe stuff, I've interpreted that stuff, and now I need to do something with it. So I'm applying my interpretation in order to create some kind of training plan or to come up with some kind of decision point that I'm going to make as an instructor that is now using the information that's available to me so that I can make certain that I'm addressing what the dog has communicated to me. So in the example that we're using here with our make-believe example, the dog has communicated to me that thing in the corner concerns me. No problem. As the instructor, I can go waddle over there, I can pick up that coat, and I can get rid of it. But then I also want to make certain that the dog isn't making any kind of associations with this space, right? So maybe one option is for me to design a container search in this space, not right up against the corner, but maybe where they had entered into the space, as an example. Nice, straightforward container search. Dog can come in, they can find their hide, going to get a whole bunch of reward. Awesome. They're going to leave. We're going to move the containers maybe a little bit closer to the corner. Same exact thing. We're going to repeat that a few times until the containers themselves are maybe wrapping around that corner for all intents and purposes. There's no coat. We're just trying to show the dog this corner is no big deal, right? Then if all that's going well, potentially within the same session, maybe the following week, if let's say we're doing this in class, we're now going to bring the coat back into the picture, but we're going to have the containers farther away. And again, this is when we go back to we're observing, and then we're interpreting, and then we're doing more planning. So I hope this makes sense that by interviewing the dog, by having this curious mindset of asking questions all throughout and using the information the dog is providing to us, and then trying to have it make sense within the context of the situation, trying to view it through the dog's perspective and trying to shed some of the human stuff, then, oh, yeah, no, this space is safe. Coats on chairs, who cares? The dog does. And then trying to come up with a plan that helps from a dog perspective, that's how we can help. And by acting as his translator, we're able to communicate to the human client what's actually going on. It's not that the dog is being stubborn. It's not that the dog is blowing you off. It's not that the dog is doing fill in the blank. The dog was concerned about this really weird looking thing in the corner, but now we're going to parse all that out so the space is safe. We're confirming that. We're confirming they can indeed still do container searches. Awesome. And then we're moving those container searches closer to the corner. Corners are great. And then maybe later on, we're going to incorporate the coat, maybe in different contexts, maybe not in that same exact corner and maybe not quite as looming, but maybe just on the ground. And then we're going to move the coat around. And then we're going to put it back in the corner eventually. And the dog is probably going to be able to do their search. And it's not going to be an issue. But if we had not gone through this process, it's very possible that we could have been very fixated ourselves. This is the exercise I designed. I did not even consider that the coat was going to be an issue. Maybe I didn't even know it was there. Dog comes into space and dog is not focused on the search that I had set. They're literally saying, I am very concerned about that thing over there. And now there's this conflict point between the dog and the handler, not to mention with us. And they're not doing what we had hoped that they would do. To avoid all of that, we can do this 3-part loop instead of observing, of interpreting, and then planning, and then making adjustments as necessary. If you're interested in learning more, you absolutely would be able to order the full Instructors Assess the Dog seminar from the Setwork University site. Again, we offer a very large library of resources, many of which are specifically geared towards instructors, but also for anyone involved in set work, regardless of where you are inside your sniffing journey. So we definitely encourage you to check out an entire library of Setwork University. We think you'll find something helpful there. Thank you so much for watching. Happy training. Please give a cookie to your puppies for us, and we look forward to seeing you soon.